Welcome into Eye on Northeast Kansas, the podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Bruner. This is where we recap some of the top interviews you heard on Eye on Northeast Kansas, the TV show. It comes to you live Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Central Time from our WIBW TV studios in Topeka, the capital of Kansas. You also see it streaming live on WIBW.com. We have been in the middle of a tragedy here in the state of Kansas. As many have heard, is reporting nationwide, a regional jet collided with a helicopter as it was approaching Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C. That flight had originated from Wichita, which of course affected a lot of people locally. And it has folks at all levels asking questions on how this happened and how perhaps it may have been able to be prevented, perhaps studying this, heading off some future tragedy. The day after that crash, Congressman Schmidt, who represents Kansas' 2nd Congressional District, happened to be in town and had scheduled a visit to our studios. He addressed that and some other topics that are top of mind. So you said you were actually flying back last night while all this was unfolding.
Yes, I was. I was in Washington yesterday on business and came back on an American flight to Kansas City. In fact, I didn't learn about the crash until we had landed in Kansas City because I had my phone turned off, of course, during the flight. So, our heart goes out to everybody involved. It's an enormous tragedy, and we still have first responders in the water and the recovery process. Obviously, a lot of families still being notified. So, we're a Kansas family, and we'll all take it together.
You said you've taken that flight, that particular route, direct from Wichita to Washington.
Yeah, it's a relatively new flight. I think it's only been around about a year. The delegation worked hard with the company to try to get that direct service in there. And so, as with all of us, life hands events, and it does make you think and reflect and realize the fragility that all of us live in.
What is the key question you would like to see answered from this? Right now, the accounts seem to be indicating some sort of accident, perhaps the transportation secretary saying this morning it was preventable. What is the question you want to see answered?
Well, we're all still in the early stages. I was on the phone with the White House late last night to get a sense of their initial response, and then we had a brief briefing this morning from the NTSB about how they'll be handling the investigation going forward. We're still in the recovery stage, and so the investigative what happened stage really is just at its very beginnings. But obviously, not to state the simple obvious, but we want to know what actually happened and why. We've all seen the videos that have been publicly available that were captured on film. And we want to know what happened and why, so that we can make sure it never happens again. Clearly something terrible failed. Probably many things failed, and so we have to figure out why that happened.
We're seeing a lot of questions being asked about the particular approach and route that was involved in this. In your mind, should we be shutting down that particular air route right now until we can figure out what was going on, that flight path that was used?
Well, I'll leave it to the professionals at both Reagan National Airport and then at the FAA to make a decision on what needs to be done to ensure the safety of the traveling public. There are a couple of different runways, one on a sort of a cross-angled runway there at Reagan National, and we've all landed who have traveled out there on them many times. And it's my understanding, at least, that wind and weather conditions often influence which route exactly is going to be used. So we'll leave it to the professionals to decide that.
I'd like your reaction to some comments President Trump made earlier today in a news conference looking into what potentially could have contributed to this crash. And he brought up DEI hiring policies. Your reaction to that connection and him making those comments today?
Well, I didn't see the president's comments yet today, but on the general subject, as you put it out there, I think every question should be asked. I don't think there should be anything off the table as we figure out what went wrong here and why. I also don't have any reason to believe any particular factor is where we're going, one the president suggested or another. I think we just need to let the facts play out.
I want to talk about why you are here today, and that is a tour of several small businesses around town and various companies that you've been meeting with. And we have some video of where you were just before you came here, which was Advisors Excel. Their ownership also has purchased Westridge Mall. I believe you're going to get a look and heard about perhaps some of those improvements. Why is a visit like this important, and what needs to happen to support small businesses? What are you learning from them?
Well, I'm so excited to have the opportunity to represent the 2nd District in Congress, and I got a seat on the Small Business Committee, which will be an important platform to allow us to talk about many of the issues that affect small businesses, which are 99% of the businesses in the state of Kansas. It is the vast majority. So, we want to learn what it is that we need to be focused on so that we can try to make a difference, make it a more friendly business environment, allow people to expand and grow and pursue their dreams and support their families. What I'm hearing everywhere, not just today, but up through today, is that the regulatory environment really is a very large piece of it. There's a tremendous frustration that Washington has just piled rule upon rule upon rule, and often it doesn't make any sense or seem to serve any purpose. What can we do to trim that back, allow people to be more entrepreneurial, to invest in employment, in providing services and goods, in fulfilling their dreams in our communities, not in complying with a diktat from the federal government?
We will continue those discussions moving forward. Appreciate you being here and weighing in on the tragedy that we're experiencing in Kansas and in Washington. Obviously, a lot going on in our nation's capital right now, and we continue to visit with Congressman Schmidt and keep up to date with our entire congressional delegation as some of those issues move forward. In Kansas, Labor Secretary Amber Schultz is among those who's involved in the fight against human trafficking. She visited the studio to explain how workplaces can be on the front lines, not only perhaps employers who might be involved in human trafficking, but also how employees and other businesses can do their part to help fight this issue. Welcome to you.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you.
We are in Human Trafficking Awareness Month. This is a perfect time to talk about it. Why take this into the workplace?
Sure. So what we focus on at the Department of Labor is actually called labor trafficking. And what it essentially does is it denies a worker their basic labor rights. So the right to a safe and healthy work environment, workers' compensation, and other wage and labor laws. And so we wanted to raise awareness to help employers and citizens be aware of what might be out there, because some of the statistics show that the umbrella of human trafficking, for prosecutions, only about 5% of those are labor traffic prosecutions, whereas in reality, 80% of human trafficking is labor trafficking.
Goodness. So what sorts of things are we talking about? I mean, sweatshops?
Well, it could be sweatshops. What we often see is that it's people that you may see every day. So, agriculture workers, hospitality, restaurant workers. They're oftentimes promised a really good job, and then they show up and they're underpaid or not paid at all. And they often don't identify even as a victim, because this might be all that they know. Or they could be just living in fear because their documents have been confiscated. They've had threats of force of harm against them or their families. And so it's really hard for them to understand what their resources are to go out there and report being a victim.
You have posters that businesses can hang up in their workplace. Yes, this is one of them. Obviously, if an employer is guilty of this, they may not hang this up and report themselves. But if a business does hang this up, what could those employees perhaps be noticing? Maybe it's in some of the other vendors or things like that they interact with.
Sure, and that's exactly what we're hoping, that even, putting them in a restroom, that a patron might show up and say, I have seen something funny down the street for the past few months, or I do, occasionally see people outside there and they just seem very isolated. They don't talk. They seem like they're living in fear. We want employers to be able to print off these free posters, hang them up all over their businesses. And it provides the resources that they can use to report, because truly an action of calling, recognizing those signs and then calling this human trafficking hotline could save somebody's life.
And for employees, same thing, I suppose.
Exactly.
If they feel like they are being taken advantage of or are a victim, you want them to know they can reach
Right,
out.
exactly. So the hotline is completely anonymous. There's multiple languages that they speak in, and they will help you. So even if you're not sure, please give this hotline a call.
We're going to put the number up in just a moment, but before we do, I want to take a moment and have you kind of update us on what's happening with the technological upgrades that the Kansas Department of Labor has been going through. We talked a lot during the pandemic about those snafus that led to a lot of waits, things like that. Last fall, you launched the upgrades. Is this the end of it, or is there still more to be done? What's the status?
Certainly not. So we launched in November 19th. So this is our 4th full week with the holidays. We're on day 35 of the new system. It was meant to be a framework, a foundation, and we are building on that every single day. I certainly recognize that right now with the winter weather that there's been some issues, people getting called in, but typically we've been answering 70 to 80% of our calls. This week it's a little bit lower, so I encourage people to continue calling in.
You're affected by the weather as well. Didn't
Exactly.
even think about that. My goodness. And then from here, there was a little bit of a snafu in a launch because it's a big upgrade, so there was something there. But are we noticing any other issues, or how are things functioning?
Right now, all of the universes of folks that had a known issue have been resolved. What we're looking at now are things that are probably from the legacy system. It was just a data migration issue or a little one-off, and so it's single individuals, and so we are working with them as we are notified of their issue to get them resolved as quickly as possible.
And more upgrades continuing. Let's let you see these resources to stop human trafficking. The hotline number is 888-373-7888. You can also text Be Free to 233-733. There's a live chat available for you, along with a lot of other resources at humantraffickinghotline.org, and you can find these Department of Labor resources at their website, dol.ks.gov. I will have links, information all posted for you on our website, WIBW.com, so you can find all of that in one place. It's a lot to take in, a lot of good work being done. Amber Schultz, thank you so very much for the update.
Melissa.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
The Labor Department has that information, of course, available on its website. In the city of Topeka, a unique organization formed just a couple years ago. It was to assist people who were fleeing the war in Ukraine. Yana Ross, who is an immigrant from Ukraine herself, wanted to help those who were having to leave their homeland, give them a safe place to land, if you will, and the support to rebuild their lives. The result was an organization called Top City Promise. It is now assisting refugees not just from Ukraine, but from other areas of the world. She has a fundraiser coming up at the end of February, and she visited our show along with Pilar Mejia and Larissa Chernitska to let us know how much this organization means. Welcome to all of you. So glad to have you here.
Thank
For
you.
those who haven't heard of Top City Promise, Yana, what do you do?
Our organization helps refugees to relocate to Topeka, and we've been doing it as organization for over a year.
And how many people have you helped? How many people?
Over
and families?
200.
Over 200 people?
Yes.
And
yes.
what countries?
So mainly Ukraine due to war, but also we've assisted a family from Venezuela and Cuba.
Wow. And assistance is very broad, Dr. Mejia. What are the types of things that Top City Promise is able to provide for families?
We provide from relocation from the country in which they are to getting here to a fully furnished and decorated home with rent paid for up to 3 months, food assistance, transportation assistance, anything that has to do with benefits they might be eligible for, enrollment in schools. It's broad and it's wonderful.
And then at the school district level, I mean, what makes Topeka a good place? What has the Topeka Public Schools in particular, been able to provide to families to support them?
Correct. So on a larger scale, the organization also support with employment. Topeka Public Schools specifically has supported the families also by hiring several of them in different capacities. Larissa, for example, is one of our EL teachers, and then we have people in food service, we've had people in custodial services, and as paraprofessionals. So it's not only Topeka Public Schools, but certainly Topeka Public Schools has been there, front and center to support the children and their families.
So much. Larissa, was it just you or who all came with you?
So I came here with my daughter, 11-year-old, so now she's 12.
Why was it so imperative for you to leave Ukraine?
So I believe that everyone's story is different. So my story is also complicated. So I had a choice. Just at that time I was in Poland, but I needed to choose to come back to Ukraine or just to do something else. And I believe that, just these doors were opened for us because I was about to go back from Poland to Ukraine, where still there was war. And unfortunately it is now. Yeah.
So it's a tough thing to do because Ukraine's your homeland, and certainly
Yes.
we'd all like to go home, but it
My
just wasn't.
family is there, my mom, my grandma, my brother, so all of them, they are there still.
Are they okay?
Yes, but every day you never know because these missiles, they fly everywhere, so.
How grateful are you? How much did it mean to you to come to Topeka and have the support here?
Even now I'm just talking to you, and for me it's like I cannot imagine this. So it's still, a little bit, I cannot believe it's difficult for me to believe that I'm here already. So though it's been already 8 months. So, and it's been, I can say that it was like a dream, because everything happened very fast. So Yana and the whole team, they made this decision very fast. They decided yes, so I could go because I needed to decide as the provider of my family, and I'm a single parent for 11 years. So I needed to decide really fast. So what to do, to come back to Ukraine or to come here. So, and yes, this decision was made. I met lots of great people here. So, and till now, even till every day, they help me on daily basis with everything, with transportation especially, because this is like my personal biggest challenge here. So
But you're
really
working and you
grateful.
have a job and you're contributing.
Yes, definitely.
Which
I work for USD 501 at Jordan Elementary School as an EL teacher.
And I think that that's an important piece of what you are doing, Yana, is you're not just saying people come here and we'll give you a free pass. You're helping them have the tools to be successful and contribute to our community, which you are doing. So now we need support to make all of this happen, though. So tell us about the event real quick and how people can join in.
Yes, on February 22nd, we will have our charity masquerade ball. And we invite all Topeka community to come, and they can either sponsor a table, buy tickets, contribute with silent auction items, just to hear about what we've accomplished within that year, and also our plans on moving forward and what we will do for more families, hopefully, that will relocate to Topeka.
And as you see there, topcitypromise.org is where you can go to get the tickets. They will uncovering refugees' stories of hope. So learn about the folks that are being helped and are part of our community now. We're glad you're here, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you
Appreciate
so much.
Thank you.
Top City Promise, again, is the name of the group. If you can't attend the event, be sure to support them throughout the year. A unique movement takes place nationwide. It's something called the Death Cafe. It sounds morbid, but it is actually a discussion about a topic that many people might not feel so comfortable talking about. So they get together in these informal settings and discuss various issues related to the end of our lives. Maybe some philosophical questions or thoughts people might have. Topeka has a Death Cafe organization. It meets once a month. Ahead of one of their more recent meetings, we heard from Emily Howell, who works for Dove Cremations, and Joy Bishop, who is an author and has addressed grief issues before, to find out what the Death Cafe is all about. Welcome, ladies. And this is an attention-getting name. And I had some people in the community actually tell me about this and say, you need to find out about the Death Cafe. Sounds very morbid, but what is it actually?
It's more of a social franchise where people can get together to have an open and meaningful conversation about death. It's not like based on like a foundation or a brick and mortar, but it's wherever we want to go to have a meeting. So our next one we're going to host actually at the Westridge Mall at the food court. So we're just inviting anybody who would like to come. The conversation's very fluid and organic. I have some prompts, but we never need them. It just continues to flow.
This is actually an international effort, and you
It
started
is.
it here 5 months ago?
Yes. Yeah.
Had it been tried before and kind of ebbs and flows?
I've never tried it before. Yeah, so I just started it and it's just going really well. And from what I understand, it was started in 2011 by this guy named John Underwood and his mom, and they host it in 93 countries.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So is it like discussing advanced planning, or is it just discussing whatever pops into somebody's mind?
Well, actually, there's no agenda.
No agenda?
No, there's no agenda, and you're actually not, there's nothing you're supposed to have concluded. So it's just open. There's no meaning to it other than let's talk about it. And we just have these open conversations.
Yeah,
It's
Joy, we've had
beautiful.
you here before because you wrote a book about that helps people facilitate discussions and conversations at the end of life.
Yeah.
You're sponsoring this next session. What intrigued you when you heard about the concept?
Well, years ago, I wanted to do the Death Cafe, but there's a lot of like rules around it, you know, and you're not supposed to bring an agenda. You're not supposed to bring your own like religion into it. It's just an open conversation. So Emily's doing such a great job, and people are showing up and going, I don't know why I'm coming. I don't like to talk about death, but I keep showing up. So it's, you can come and not say anything and just sit there and listen. Some people do that. We have hospice nurses coming. It's been great. So
So people don't necessarily have the same professional backgrounds. Are
Yeah.
these people, are people coming who are facing the end of life or with a loved one facing end of life, or are they just saying, you know, this is interesting and I'm kind of curious what the next chapter has in store?
Yes, all of that. We've had everybody show up from every walk of life with everything going on in their lives, you know. So And we keep coming back. And I talk about death with my clients and grief and loss, and I keep coming back because it helps me personally. And I never get enough of it. So I'm learning things, and I'm able to share how I feel about things that I couldn't necessarily share with my clients. So, but I would if they were there. So yeah, it's been nice.
How does this typically flow? How do you start it?
Generally, I start the conversation with introducing who you are and what brought you to the Death Cafe, and then it just goes. And we host it for about 2 hours, and before you know it, you're like, oh, it's time's up.
What's usually the first thing you say? I mean, after everybody introduces themselves, then somebody has to start. So do you just say, you want to say what's on your mind, or do you typically have the first prompt? Like, what would a typical prompt be?
Generally, somebody says something in their introduction that another person's curious about. And then we just start bouncing back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's really
so
intriguing. I'm
it's
thinking
so
about this going,
easy.
I can just see where the conversations could and potentially flow. So this travels, is that correct?
Yes.
So Westridge Mall is the next location. You have you're sponsoring because you're providing beverages.
Beverages and some snacks, and yeah, so we want people to come and sit down with us.
And this is free?
Yeah, it's
This
totally
is
free.
All right. Where can people find out about future sessions? Do you post this a specific place?
They can go to the Death Cafe's website to find all of the future meetings that I'll be hosting, and they can also reach out to me through that forum.
All right. And what is the website?
Death Cafe.
Death Cafe.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
then search local meetings, and then it'll populate the Topeka ones.
All right. It's a fascinating concept. Thank you both so much for being here and telling us about it. Again, keep in touch via their website to find out when the next sessions are of the Death Cafe. SME, the Sales and Marketing Executives, has a Topeka chapter, and every year they honor an Executive of the Year. This year, it is Ken Schmidt. He and the chapter's leader, Richard Kelly, visited the show to talk a little bit about, first of all, from Richard's point of view, what sets Ken apart, and from Ken's point of view, why he does what he does. Welcome to both of you.
Hi, hello, thank you.
And congratulations, Ken. What did you think when they said, well, we want to honor you as our Person of the Year?
Well, I was certainly honored. There's a long list of impressive individuals that have received this award in the past, and sometimes I think it might not mean I'm done because I have a lot more to do, but it was an impressive honor.
You've made your career in commercial real estate. Do you think of yourself as a sales and marketing executive per se?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah? But you've been into buying recently.
Yes.
Townsite Tower and the downtown Topeka Post Office building are I think, your more recent accomplishments when you look back in your career selling things to other people. You chose to take over these spaces. What was behind that decision?
Well, I had been watching this property for some time, and it was certainly in a state of decline.
This was the Townsite Tower?
Yes.
Okay.
And, well, both properties.
Yeah.
And I felt that our team was uniquely qualified to take on this challenge, and it's been a fun adventure. We've been able to raise our occupancies from 50% when we took over in 2020, and now we're just over 75%. So, but we have a lot more good space to lease.
So everyone give him a call.
Yeah.
Richard, what are the Sales and Marketing Executives? What is SME? What do you do?
Sure. So Sales and Marketing Executives Topeka started in the late 1950s. We've been around for just about 70 years now here in Topeka. Since 1970, we've had an honoree for every year that's had a unique contribution to either the commerce or benefit to the city of Topeka, and has also made a unique accomplishment within the last year. Sales and Marketing Executives at Topeka, though, brings together around 50 to 100 people every month, sometimes small business owners, sometimes CEOs or executives, sales members in the city of Topeka, folks that want to either work on continuing education or opportunities to network or grow their business or learn practices to better help them be better business owners, or again, sales and marketing executives across Topeka.
And you broadly define that. When you look at the list of honorees, who is Ken joining? Who are some of the folks we recognize?
So folks like Nancy Perry, John Dykes, Governor Alf Landon, there's also been Cody Foster and Matt Pervarnik in more recent years. I think I maybe said Nancy Perry already, but there's
We love her. You can say it.
Yeah, Nancy Perry just caught my eye as one of those folks that has been a staple point here across the Topeka area.
So when you guys looked at Ken, what was it that stood out?
Absolutely. So we looked at Ken and we saw his accomplishments that he's made, again, with the town site tower, but then also with that 424 property, a mixed use facility. Someone that's really looking at investing back into the city of Topeka. Ken's a longtime Topekan and is someone that we've looked up to in terms of what he's doing for the downtown Topeka area.
And 424 is the former Topeka Post Office building. The second floor was a courtroom that heard one of the Brown v. Board case arguments over the years. What's the status, Ken? How is that property looking? Are we ready to start you've been advertising, but when are we going to see people moving in?
We're almost finished with the first and second, or actually the lower level and the first floor. We've gotten some commercial tenants and 2 apartments. Our plans are to add 28 more apartments, and included in that will be a very unique study quiet area in the old courtroom.
So there will be a place for perhaps the public to go in and continue to see a little bit of the history,
Probably
or can they
more-
give you a call and find out when they can go in?
Well, not quite yet. It's still quite a bit under renovation, but we'll have a lot of resort-style amenities in with the apartments, a rooftop area and areas for people to not only be happy in their apartment, but share some space with the neighbors.
Well, whether or not it's simply for the folks who live and work there, I think what's important that you just said there is that no, you are not ripping out that courtroom and making it into someone's apartment. The space itself will be preserved in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
So that's good to hear that update. And when do you think those other 28 apartments might be
Well,
ready?
if all
it takes time. Tomorrow.
If all goes well, we'll be leasing apartments in the fall.
Okay, well, see, we got a little update here from Ken as well. So you can honor him at the SME Topeka Sales and Marketing Executive of the Year Banquet. It starts at 5:30. The date is February 11th at Townsite Tower. Tickets $60 per person at SMETopeka.org. And Ken, it's at your place. I mean, I've seen you actually working events that are at the place. Are you going to actually sit down and enjoy this one?
I may get to join.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No change in light bulbs or helping clear tables.
Whatever it takes.
1 minute, he'll be right back. Speech is delayed while he helps. Ken, thank you so very much.
Thank
Richard,
you.
thank you for telling us about it as well. Congratulations to Ken Schmidt on that SME Executive of the Year honor, joining a long list of distinguished Topekans and Kansans in earning that distinction. On the fun note today, the Polar Plunges are returning. It is freezing for a reason, as we like to say, a sub-zero hero. Polar Plunges around this part of the country benefit Special Olympics Kansas. The Topeka Plunge is the first on the list coming up. Other area communities, Lawrence, Manhattan, Emporia, all hosting plunges as well. Caitlin Andrus visited the show to talk about it, along with Special Olympian Megan Howell. For those who've never been to a Polar Plunge, Caitlin, tell us what happens there.
So actually, Megan, I want you to explain, what is that Polar Plunge?
Polar Plunge is a event that you can, like this year we're actually doing something completely different. We are going to be using a big water tank instead of being at Lake Shawnee.
So that's the Topeka Plunge, right? Megan,
Yes.
how many years have you participated in the Topeka Plunge?
Last year was my first year. This is actually my second year.
Your second year. How fun was it?
It was really fun, but really cold.
Really cold. What was your costume?
I wore the shirt from last year and then a tutu and everything.
Of course. Super fun, super fun. Have you been a Special Olympics athlete for very long?
Yes, I've been an athlete for about 16 years.
16 years. What events do you all do?
I pretty much do everything besides doing powerlifting and bocce. The sports I participate in is basketball, cheerleading, track, swimming, softball, bowling.
Okay, what are your events in track?
Track, I do last year I did the 400-meter run, which is one lap around the track.
The best event.
I did the running long jump and softball throw, and then also I did the 4x100 relay.
That's a lot.
Yes,
that is a lot. Why do you do so much in Special Olympics? What has it meant to you?
Special Olympics to me is just to get to participate in Special Olympics and also be part of a team and get to meet other teams and other kids around the state of Kansas when we compete against the tournaments.
It's a lot of fun and a lot of smiles. We do a video of last year's Polar Plunge because, as Megan mentioned, there's a little bit of a change this year for the Topeka Plunge. It's going to be at Westridge Mall instead of Lake Shawnee. This is Lake Shawnee, and you can tell it was cold. I have seen years, Caitlin, where they've been sitting on ice ledges and having to put holes in the ice. But how big of a program is Special Olympics? Because you do these Polar Plunges all over.
Oh my gosh, we have them statewide, and so for right now, our first one coming up will be Topeka. So that's going to be so much fun. Then we have Manhattan and Lawrence, and so that is one of our biggest fundraising events for our programming. So though all that money goes towards back, all of our athletes being able to have that programs for them.
And we're talking hundreds of athletes across the state?
Yes, we serve about 6,700 athletes.
Oh my goodness gracious. And year-round programs, correct?
Yes.
What is the main mission of Special Olympics and your goal in having these programs year-round?
Go for it.
For Special Olympics, we do hundreds of fundraisers, like the Tip a Cop event. There's a law enforcement torch run, the Polar Plunge, of course. There's also like a golf clinic during the summer, I think, or so. But
I find it so cool, the partnership between Special Olympics and law enforcement. What is that connection all about, and how much fun is it to see our local law enforcement agencies and officers and deputies all just really buy into this mission?
I think for me, I got into Special Olympics about 6 years ago, and now I'm the special event coordinator, and I actually witnessed my first torch run, and to see those officers give them their medals, that really changed my perception too of, at the end of the day, it's inclusion for everybody. So I think coming together with those communities and bring them to one, it shows everyone that at the end of the day, it's about our athletes. It's about making sure that they feel loved, seen, and heard.
Did you see our news Monday night, Megan, and who we saluted on Monday night?
No,
Your friend, Sergeant Wilson. Sergeant Dan Wilson was our Salute Our Heroes subject on Monday at night, and he mentioned Special Olympics and how much he loves doing that.
Yes.
I think the other part too, Caitlin, that maybe people don't realize is just the healthy living aspects that Special Olympics imparts to participants. It's not just going out and having a competition, but then there are other life lessons and life skills that young adults like Megan can learn.
Oh, I agree, and I think a lot of it too is their friendships. It's allowing them to go in the community and really have the community understand that Special Olympics is breaking down barriers, and we're allowing them to see them as human beings, not only just athletes, but people who want to be a part of the community as well.
Well, we're glad you're here. I'm so glad that you guys could come and let us know.
too.
Okay, there's more than just Topeka, so we're going to run down some key dates. Of course, the first Polar Plunge that's coming up is February 8th at Westridge Mall. Megan will tell you it is the best Polar Plunge because it is the one she will be at.
Yes,
we also have other Polar Plunges coming up. I mean, just do them all. Why not? Manhattan is February 15th at Tuttle Creek State Park Swim Beach. Emporia's is also February 15th. That is at Mouse Lake. You can find the details, registration information. Maybe you don't want to jump in a tub of cold water. You can still donate and support the cause. Just go to plungeks.org. All of the events for all across the state are listed there. Each adds their own special touches. They all have a special schedule of event, and it's super fun.
Yes,
as
It
always.
is. I'm new, so I get to jump into all of it. So my first
Make her
plunge
do
will
it.
be with
Yes.
Megan.
Yes.
It's going to be so much fun.
Thank you both. We're going to hold you to it. Just like
You can check out the Special Olympics activities, including the Polar Plunges, on their website. They are always so fun and always so inspiring. And honestly, it just makes you happy to be around the events and the athletes, encouraging each other. That, if you would like to see the video of all of these segments and all the segments that we have on ION Northeast Kansas, you can just head to WIBW.com. I also post the links along with our studio selfies for a little behind the scenes look on my Facebook page, WIBW Melissa Bruner. And of course, you can find it on our WIBW TV 13 News YouTube channel. Be sure to click subscribe while you're there. Glad to have you along here today. Until next time, we'll see you on the Red Couch.